Held to the hope, the belief, the conviction that there is a better life, a better world beyond the horizon, quoted by Franklin Delano Roosevelt during the Great Depression. Even being one of the most doubted and depressing moments of American history, also marked the rise of one of the most revered presidents for his continuous efforts to better the American name. He was the 32nd President of the United States and was the only president to serve 4 terms and be paralyzed in both of his legs. Franklin Delano Roosevelt led the American people through the largest economic drought in history and most of the rush to power of World War II. What up, YouTube? This is Alex J 1918 coming at you with my first ever Crash Course FDR. And if you're as excited as I am to learn about Roosevelt, you're watching the right video. So let's get started.
Roosevelt was born in Hyde Park, New York on January 30th, 1882. His parents James Roosevelt and Sarah Delano Roosevelt and many tutors gave him most of his early education and led him to attending both Harvard and Columbia University. Roosevelt first became interested in politics in 1910 when he was elected to the New York State Senate as a Democrat compared to his originally Republican home district. In the summer of 1912, he was afflicted with polio and would forevermore be paralyzed in his legs through his upcoming presidency. By 1933, after regaining his political career, he had been elected the 32nd President of the United States and would continue to change history from that day on. Elected to presidency in the middle of a major economic crisis, Roosevelt devoted his efforts to getting the trust of the American people. In 1933, he created the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or the FDIC, essentially to regain financial circulation through national banks and to gain the trust of the American people. This assured financial security and that invested money would be returned by the governments if banks had gone bankrupt. Also, on March 12, 1933, he had given one of his famous fireside chats on the radio. These broadcasts to Americans were one of the many efforts to better the hope of U.S. citizens during the Great Depression. Fireside chats got its nickname because most American people at the time had access to a radio, and it was most common to be placed next to a fireplace. FDR spoke 31 times concerning new American policies and domestic and military fronts in World War II during his 4 terms of office. FDR had coined the League of Nations, which later became the United Nations. The UN promotes world peace and enforces humanitarian issues worldwide. Progressing into World War II, Roosevelt was re-elected in 1940 because Americans trusted and believed he could overcome and lead the U.S. to better international relations with other world powers. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, Japan and its allies Germany and Italy had declared war on the United States. Roosevelt then became part of the Big Three, with Joseph Stalin and Winston Churchill combating the very terrifying Nazi threat in Europe. Roosevelt is also the American president who sanctioned the Manhattan Project, a race to harness the power of the atom in a nuclear blast. Then, during World War II, Pearl Harbor and many military fronts in Germany had took its toll on the aging president. In April of 1945, before the end of his 4th term, FDR had died due to natural causes, believed to be from the stress of his long presidency and his declining health from polio. Vice President Harry S. Truman, who was later sworn into presidency, had been continuing to try and pursue the war in Japan through weapons of destruction, who then
Stand up for what's right, inspire hope and inspiration through others, and make the world a better place. Even though Franklin D. Roosevelt could not stand up, the ideals that he stood for will always be remembered in his legacy. Thanks for watching. This is Alex Faust, signing off.